I address you with mixed emotions. On the one hand, there is a sense of accomplishment for all that we have achieved together and gratitude to God Almighty for the privilege of serving the people of Nigeria and being a part of this revered legislative body, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. On the other hand, however, there is a tinge of sadness and nostalgia as I bid farewell to this cherished role and many of my colleagues. We started this journey on 11th June 2019 with 109 senators, but over the course of 4 years, we lost an unprecedented number of 4 members of this chamber. Senator Ignatius Longjam, who represented Plateau South, Senator Adebayo Oshino, represented Lagos East, Senator Ross Oko, represented Cross River North, Senator Benjamin Uwajumogu, represented Ima North. Despite their not being here today to celebrate our successes, we must fondly remember them and pray that God will grant them eternal rest. May we please stand and observe a minute silence in their memory and honor. May their gentle souls rest in perfect peace. Amen. While remembering our colleagues that passed on, we also remember those that have answered the call to serve Nigeria in different capacities, especially Senator Kashim Shettima Mustafa, GCON, who represented Borno Central, now Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Distinguished Senator Oluremi Tinubu, who represented Lagos Central, is now our First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Distinguished Senator Obasani, who represented Kaduna Central, is now Governor of Kaduna State. Distinguished Senator Hassan Mohammed Gusau Nasiha, represented Zamfara Central, served as Deputy Governor of Zamfara State. Distinguished Senator Ekoya Yakinyi, represented Akwa Ibom South, now Deputy Governor of Akwa Ibom State. Senator Abdullah Adamu, who represented Nasarawa West, is now the National Chairman of the All Progressive Congress APC, the ruling party. And distinguished Senator Abubakar Kyari, who represented Borno North, now is Deputy National Chairman North of the All Progressive Congress. They were all vibrant members of this chamber who contributed to the success of the 9th Senate and are now contributing to Nigeria's political development and stability in different capacities. Let me also mention here that distinguished Senator Ike Ikwarimadu, who served as Deputy President of the Senate for 3 consecutive terms for 12 years, would have been here with us if not because of the tragedy that has befallen the family. And of course, we are part of the family. I will take this opportunity to call on Mr. President, distinguished Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, to engage with the British government with a view to seeking diplomatic resolutions of this very important but tragic situation. Distinguished colleagues, the 9th Senate, the 9th National Assembly, was inaugurated 4 years ago at a time of heightened political tensions and threats to security, especially by Boko Haram, which perpetrated acts of abductions, suicide bombings of civilian targets and government infrastructure in the northeast. This situation was further worsened by decades of communal conflict between nomadic herders and farmers in the north central, militancy in the south-south, and agitations for devolution of powers and succession in the southeast and southwest. The economic outlook was equally grim, with the predictions of slow real GDP growth, depressed oil demand, and its impact on Nigeria's earnings and prospects for economic growth, huge infrastructure deficit, leakages and revenue losses, uncertainties among investors, growing youth population, and rising unemployment, as well as high inflation rates, among others. To further complicate things, we also inherited a legacy of antagonistic and sometimes hostile legislative-executive relations characterized by mutual distrust and suspicions. Some consequences of that strained relationship included delays in the passage of budget, weak oversight by committees, and non-compliance to legislative summons, amongst others. In response to these challenges, we adopted the slogan, "A Senate that works for Nigerians," and a legislative agenda that define our legislative priorities in the short, medium, and long terms, and specific actions towards meeting our overall objective of providing good representation for Nigerians. Our approach was evidence-based and drew from the study on citizens' expectations of the 9th National Assembly. The broad philosophical outlook of the agenda emphasized a holistic approach to economic, socio-political, and governance reforms rather than piecemeal or haphazard interventions. Our vision from the start, therefore, was to lay a foundation for reforming the various aspects of our national life through purposeful lawmaking and oversight. In crafting laws, we emphasize legislations that address some of the fundamental issues that have impeded development and undermined social cohesion. As a body, we conducted ourselves ethically as required of government officials and placed national interest above any personal or sectional considerations. As a result, the period between 2019 to 2023 has produced the most consequential legislative outputs of any assembly since the return to democratic governance in 1999. Distinguished colleagues, permit me to reflect on some of our most significant accomplishments over the last 4 years. In lawmaking, the 9th Senate introduced and successfully passed critical legislations that could reform and promote the economy, improve transparency in government processes, and enhance public confidence in the electoral process. As of June 10th, 2023, that is today, over 1,129 bills were presented on the floor of the Senate, and over 500 were successfully passed. The President assented to 129 bills, and I mean the former President, President Muhammadu Buhari, representing about 60% of all bills passed. 18 bills were assented to in 2019, 10 in 2020, 21 in 2021, and 43 in 2023. This is the highest of any assembly in Nigeria's history. In the last few days, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR has assented to 2 bills passed by the 9th National Assembly, namely the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Fifth Alteration Number 37 Bill 2023, which extends the retirement age of High Court judges and others from 65 to 70 years. This was the first bill to be signed by the President since taking the oath of office. Only yesterday, the 9th of June 2023, Mr. President also assented to the Electricity Act 2023, which we had passed in July 2022. The new law, the Electricity Act of 2000, the new law replaces the Electricity and Power Sector Reform Act of 2005. The new Electricity Act has the potential to transform our power sector, ushering in a new era of reliability, efficiency, and sustainability of our power sector. Distinguished colleagues, beyond the impressive numbers, however, These laws cut across the 11 priority areas of our legislative agenda. They lay the foundation for multi-sectoral reforms and revitalization of the Nigerian state. For example, for the first time in decades, we enacted the Petroleum Industry Act to overhaul the oil and gas sector to better respond to the changing environment and foster stronger sector growth. We passed numerous legislations to stimulate the Nigerian economy and improve the ease of doing business. These include the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act of 2020, otherwise known as BOFIA, Finance Act 2020, Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Amendment Act 2019, and many others. To enhance accountability and promote good governance, we also enacted the Process of Crime Recovery and Management Act 2022, Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022, and Police Act 2020, amongst others. Critically too, we successfully enacted the enhanced transparency and inspire greater voter confidence. I will take that again. Critically too, we successfully enacted the Electoral Act 2022, which reformed our electoral process to enhance transparency and inspire greater voter confidence. The National Social Investment Program Agency Act 2023 institutionalizes and provides a legal framework for government programs targeting the poor and the vulnerable in our country. We passed 16 constitutional alteration bills targeted at, among other things, providing for the financial independence of State House of Assembly and State Judiciary, decongesting the exclusive legislative list by moving railway to the concurrent legislative list, authorizing states to generate, transmit, and distribute electricity in areas covered by the national grid, and making it mandatory for the President and governors to submit the names of persons nominated as ministers or commissioners within 60 days of taking oath of office for confirmation by the Senate or State House of Assembly. The 9th Senate and indeed the 9th National Assembly strengthened the budget process to reduce delays experienced in previous assemblies and ensure speedy consideration and passage of the appropriation law. In the past, delays in the budget process led to poor budget implementation, especially the capital component. Working with the executive, we returned Nigeria to the January to December budget cycle for the first time in 12 years. Additionally, measures were taken to ensure that the appropriation bill was passed in line with the financial principles contained in the Finance Act. In 2023, we amended 11 legislations to reflect the provisions of the Finance Act. You will agree with me that the legislations and critical bills were passed could potentially address the multitude of economic and social challenges facing Nigerians, improve social services, health and education, stimulate job creation, reduce poverty, and ensure the security of lives and properties. As members of the 9th Senate, we should be proud of our outputs and the fact that we broke several legislative jinxes by enacting laws that had stalled in the National Assembly since 1999. And let me add here that some of the legislations that we have passed will start to yield results maybe in the next 1, 2 years, 3 years. Because if we are talking about the Petroleum Industry Act, we expect investments to flow into this sector, and the output would be seen probably in a year and of course subsequent years. The 9th Senate recognized from the outset that security is a fundamental requirement for ensuring stability and development. In my inaugural speech at the inception of this assembly, I pledged to work closely with my colleagues in both the Senate and the House of Representatives with the other arms of government to improve the security situation in the country. In the last 4 years, we have achieved a lot in this regard. We set up another committee to engage with security agencies and produce a white paper on restructuring, reviewing, and reorganizing the security architecture of the country. To curb the proliferation of illegal arms and weapons, we passed the bill for the establishment of a national commission for coordination and control of small arms and light weapons. We passed other security-related laws, including the Police Act mentioned earlier. Police force and how the Nigerian police force and how they relate to the citizenry, with a particular focus on effective policing, accountability and transparency, and protection of human rights and freedom. Working with partners, we also engage in harmonizing the legislative and institutional frameworks, regulating all security agencies to reduce overlap and enhance greater collaboration. Only a few weeks ago, I commissioned the Legislative Center for Security Analysis to monitor armed conflicts and other forms of crimes in the country to inform lawmaking and oversight. Working with the executive, the Ninth Assembly ensured the most significant funding towards retooling and equipping the armed forces. We also ensured improved transparency in security spending while engaging closely with the security actors to determine their needs. It is gratifying to note that the sustained fight against terrorists, banditry and kidnapping has produced positive results. I wish to express my deep gratitude to former President Muhammadu Buhari GCFR and you, my distinguished colleagues, for your patriotism and commitment to pushing through these fundamental reforms for the good of our country. This demonstrates that there is no limit to what we can achieve where there is political will. Our collective achievements also underscore and justify our decision to adopt a cordial but professional approach to executive-legislative relations, focusing on constructive engagement rather than needless antagonism and conflicts. While asserting the independence of the legislature and the principle of separation of powers, we cooperated in making laws and taking decisions that best protect the interests of all Nigerians. Indeed, as all of us here can attest to, in the absence of harmony and respect between the two arms of government, neither the legislature nor the executive can effectively perform its functions. A healthy and constructive relationship between the executive and the legislative arms promotes stability and continuity in governance. By working together these past 4 years, we have positively addressed pressing national issues, resolved conflicts, and maintained political stability, which is crucial for economic growth, social development, and improved public trust in the government. One of the legislature's critical functions is to counterbalance the executive's powers, ensure value for money in government spending, and promote transparency and accountability in using approved resources. Ultimately, through oversight, the legislature improves the efficiency and effectiveness of government operations and the quality of government and public service delivery. Accordingly, the agenda of the Ninth Senate prioritized the enhancement and modernization of legislative systems and processes, including the operations of committees, to improve the overall effectiveness of the Assembly in the conduct of oversight. Other priority areas included ensuring adherence to our legislative code of ethics, improved funding for committee activities, greater collaboration with legislative support institutions, particularly the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies (NILS), and strengthening the human resource capacity of legislators and staff and aides. To strengthen legislative institutions, we ensured the completion and commissioning of the NILS Management Permanent Complex and work on the permanent site of the National Assembly Service Commission and the National Assembly Library is nearing completion. Other innovations include the commissioning of the first ever parliamentary radio station and the Legislative Center for Security Analysis, also the first in Africa. These institutions and projects will contribute to enhancing legislative functions and deepening democracy in Nigeria. In the last 4 years, the various oversight committees of the Ninth Senate conducted 371 visits to ministries, departments and agencies and projects across the country. Through these visits, we ensured that government projects and programs were implemented and administered efficiently, effectively and consistent with legislative intent. We also conducted numerous investigative hearings to examine specific issues of public concern, including subsidy claims, power, crude oil theft, production sharing contracts, and operations of the MDA such as NDDC, Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund, and many more. These probes ensure that those who hold public offices are answerable to the legislature and the public. The 9th Senate also received 705 petitions, 146 and 239 in the first and second sessions, 232 and 88 in the fourth sessions, which have either been resolved or at various stages of consideration. Confirmation of certain categories of nominees for federal executive and judicial positions is one of the oversight mechanisms employed by the legislature to ensure the accountability of public officers to citizens. The power to confirm presidential appointees is a constitutionally assigned power of the Senate in Section 147, subsection 2, 171, subsection 2C, and Section 154 of the 1999 Constitution as altered. The 9th Senate confirmed 241 appointments on the recommendations of the relevant committees. Finally, in the discharge of our representative functions, the 9th Senate aggregated and amplified the problems faced by our constituents. 361 motions were moved in the 9th Senate and 488 resolutions were passed. Through these various motions and resolutions, we called the government's attention to specific issues and sought their intervention. We entertained and resolved thousands of petitions brought before us by Nigerians and enhanced engagement with civil society, media, development partners, etc., etc. Through constituency and zonal intervention projects, senators successfully attracted developmental projects to their constituencies, which in some instances were the only evidence of federal presence at the grassroots level. Parliaments around the world have traditionally suffered from negative stereotypes and poor public perception. A similar situation obtains in Nigeria, where the National Assembly has been acutely misunderstood and characterized negatively by popular narratives in the press and social media. And just like one of our colleagues in his remarks said, that we are core rubber stamp, I believe that those who say so mostly are people who are very envious, who are very jealous of the performance of the 9th Senate. As the people's representatives, we took it upon ourselves to engage and sensitize the public on the roles and limitations of the legislature. We introduced the Distinguished Parliamentarians Lecture Series to interface with the public on crucial governance issues on a sustained basis. I had the honor of delivering the maiden lecture in 2021, during which I emphasized that while negative perceptions exist, they do not necessarily reflect the reality of the National Assembly. Distinguished colleagues, despite our successes, we have grappled with public's limited understanding of the legislature, leading to the stereotypes that I have just mentioned. Notwithstanding, we created various avenues to sensitize Nigerians on the roles and functions of the legislature, and this should continue in subsequent assemblies. The COVID-19 pandemic and the ensuing economic crisis affected the operations of the National Assembly. Nevertheless, we rose to the occasion by putting together economic measures to protect the most vulnerable of our citizens. Esteemed colleagues, today our stewardship in the 9th Senate comes to an end. As the cliche goes, all good things come to an end. We do not depart with regrets, but rather with a sense of accomplishment and the knowledge that we made our modest contributions towards building a better and prosperous Nigeria. Our work in this 9th Senate provides a solid foundation and framework for succeeding assemblies to build on and sustain the gains already made. Our experience has been documented in the legacy report of the 9th Senate, which we have distributed. Copies will be distributed to all of us, and of course will be made available to the members of the public. I want to express my heartfelt appreciation to my constituents who elected me into the 9th Senate in the first place, my party at the state, and my governor and state government for all the support. But let me particularly thank you, my colleagues, and I reserve this for a special appreciation. In 2019, on June 11, you decided to vote for me to lead the Senate, this 9th Senate. And the vote was massive and bipartisan. And therefore, it was right from the start a bipartisan Senate that would have to be run in such a manner that no party platform will be a guiding principle for what we do here. I want to thank you most sincerely, and I cannot thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to lead the Ninth Senate. And of course, that is to say that without you, all the successes that we are talking about wouldn't have happened. You have been there, you have been supportive of the leadership of this Senate, and in fact, we have made our errors, but you have decided to always support us, show us the way, better way, and we have always followed what would always take us out of the woods. We as leaders of this Senate will not stop thanking you, because so far this Senate experienced no any chaotic situation or crisis that will disrupt its functions. And of course, that is not something that we could take for granted. I've endeavored as a person to lead this Senate with the fear of God. I've remained very sincere and honest, but I must admit that I have made my mistakes. And thank you for giving me when I made those mistakes. And I will take the opportunity to speak like all of us have spoken. Normally, by nature and design, I'm primed to be a little bit rigid, a little bit difficult. But you have tolerated me all the same. I cannot thank you enough for that show of understanding. I really appreciate the cooperation, the support, and all the advice, because almost everyone here supports me through advice, through counseling. And of course, I want to mention what one of my friends here have said. The youngest member of this Senate, Senator Ishaku Abo, when we finished the elections and he came to sign his papers, I whispered to him, I said, my brother, you are welcome. You are a young man. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to support you. And you will not miss anything because you didn't vote for me or because you nominated someone. We must exhibit large heart. We are leaders in our own right. We must accommodate people. We must tolerate people. Political differences should never make us be hostile to each other. And I want to thank you for the kind of bipartisan support that we have received in this Senate. Let me also commend you for your patriotism, hard work, and dedication to duty. We have done so much in the time that we have taken to do this work, despite COVID-19 and other situations that we hoped would not be there. In these years, there have been disagreements, debates, and controversies, but we transcended by partisanship. I recall that the former minority leader, Senator Abaribi, he would from time to time say certain things that could even cause national ripples. But those things were said in some effort to make Nigeria better. And as Parliament, we should be free to speak our minds if what we are going to say will make our country better. And of course, as parliamentarians, we must at all times ensure that our interest is national interest and nothing more. And that we have demonstrated so far. I wish to conclude by congratulating His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, on his inauguration as President and Commander-in-Chief. Sir, as you take on this very important responsibility, I pray Almighty Allah will give you the strength and wisdom to chart a new course for Nigeria. I equally congratulate my brother and friend, Right Honorable Femi Bajaba Miller, Speaker of the House of Representatives and the incoming Chief of Staff to the President, for his support and of course understanding as the leader of the other chamber. It has been a pleasure working alongside him and indeed the other members of the House of Representatives. Congratulations to Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja, who now is Deputy Chief of Staff to the President in the office of the Vice President. I wish both of them success in their new roles, and I'm confident that they will work to strengthen the executive legislature relations for improved governance. In fact, the next assembly should have no difficulty relating with the executive arm of government when the entire system in the villa is characterized by National Assembly membership. President, Vice President, First Lady, SGF, Chief of Staff, Deputy Chief of Staff, all had one experience or the other in the National Assembly. My special gratitude to the Deputy President of the Senate, Senator Owe Omoagege, the Obarishi of Roboland, CFR, all the principal officers and all the single senators for the support given to us so far. I wish to acknowledge the incredible dedication and hard work of the legislative bureaucracy under the leadership of the clerk to the National Assembly and all his predecessors. Equally worth mentioning are all the administrative personnel of the Assembly who keep the machinery of this institution running smoothly. Their contributions are often unsung but certainly indispensable. Our special gratitude to the clerk, Senate and all chamber staff for diligently providing support and assistance for legislative work in the chamber. I extend my special appreciation to the National Assembly, the Chairman, National Assembly Service Commission, the Director General Management of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies for their work in strengthening our capacities here. Our work in the 9th Senate was significantly improved by input from civil society development partners, especially the Conrad Stephen CAS and Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAG, as well as other stakeholders. We appreciate your contribution to strengthening democracy in Nigeria and implore you to continue to act as catalyst for more inclusive and participatory democratic governance. We express our gratitude to the media, especially the members of the Senate Press Corps. We cannot thank you enough, our Press Corps. You have been very, very wonderful. You have reported correctly, you have reported very well, and without you, the public wouldn't have heard what we have done in the last 4 years. So thank you very much, the Senate Press Corps. To those leaving the Senate, I wish you all success in the future, but that's not the end of the road. We will still have some other functions to perform in different capacities. And to those that are returning, I challenge us to build on the foundation we have laid in the 10th Senate. For me, I'm going to take a back seat as a member of the 10th Senate, but I will not take a back seat in terms of supporting first the leadership that will emerge. Whoever emerges, the Senate President and Deputy Senate President and principal officers, I will give my support and continue to be available to share experience. And for the other distinguished senators of the 10th Senate, we have gathered some experience over the years, and it is mandatory that we share experiences to mentor those that we think deserve or need our mentorship. As aptly remarked by Winston Churchill, this is not the end, I quote. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning, end of quote. I'm proud to say that the 9th Senate has truly been a Senate that worked for Nigerians. We have succeeded in so many areas, but we have deficit in other areas. We have not been able to improve on revenue generation and collection, and that has been a problem for this country. Therefore, the next assembly, the next Senate, I think should focus on this, revenue generation and collection. In fact, due to paucity of revenues, we had to resort to supporting loans or taking of loans or borrowing, because our revenues alone could not give us what we needed, especially in the area of infrastructure development. So this is one task that the next assembly will have to grapple with, and I'm happy that the President, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has already started working on that, but he needs the support of the National Assembly to get out of those as far as the generation or improving the revenues of the country. May God bless us, and may God bless our dear country. Once again, I thank you all. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.